Hello, this is Moundmaker, and I'm back with another episode of my Nightreign Exploration Guide. Today's topic is Blacksmith Villages. And on my last video, I had about 20 requests to make a video on these places. And I understand. Because it's very easy for these places to seem like nonsense, but I'm here to make sense of the nonsense. But first, I unfortunately was around a bunch of sick people yesterday, and I woke up this morning with a bad sore and swollen throat. If I sound a little different, it's for that reason. I'm expecting to be able to speak okay at first, but as the video goes on, I think it may get worse. I guess we'll see. But enough of that. Let's talk about these locations. I'm going to start with a brief overview. There's 8 total blacksmith villages. 4 with a static boss up a hill and over a bridge. And 4 more with multiple bosses who walk the streets in different locations. The main lore of these locations that they have a giant smithing table that once activated allows you to re-roll the Ash of War or skill that's on any one weapon in your inventory. In order to activate the giant smithing table, you only need to light one forge. I've seen places that say you have to beat bosses or clear enemies, and this is just not true. There are 5 possible forge spawn locations. 3 of those spawns will be at the ground level, and 2 of those will be up in the walls. I'll be given a rundown of all 5 possible locations, even though each location will only have 3 that are active. I'll cover that soon, though. We're going to start with the single boss locations. These locations will be marked with blood, holy, lightning, or no element at all on the map. When entering these structures from the front, the merchant will always be in the immediate house to the right, and the giant smithing table will be right after him. A forge spawn is possible directly to the right of the giant table. Another forge spawn is over here to the left side of the wall. And yet another forge spawn is up this broken wall. As you see, there's currently rubble there. That rubble will be where a possible forge could occur, but did not spawn. Now, we're going to head to the right side near the back entrance. Here, we'll see more rubble. Again, indicating a spawn location where it did not spawn. Directly next to that location is a bow rack. Then finally, we're going to circle back around, go up a small hill, and then over this bridge, where we'll encounter the boss. I'm going to cover bosses soon, but for now, I'm running past the boss to show the 5th and final forge spawn. Then, I'm going to jump up on this roof, then jump up on the wall, to get to the final bow rack. There's also 2 quick ways to get to the boss if you're just coming here for that fight. If we start at the front entrance, you want to run along the outside of the right side of the walls. Here's the first shortcut, and it involves climbing these rocks until you get to the top, at which point you'll be at the top of the wall that overlooks the boss fight. Now, all you have to do is jump down, and the fight will begin. The next shortcut is only a few more steps further. You'll come to a hole in the wall, which will lead up to the boss area, where you have to take a left once you emerge, and then you'll be in the boss fight. These are good options for if you don't want to aggro the generics and only want to come here and take out the bosses, and maybe the giant smithing table after. If you're wondering about Everjail keys, I've never had one spawn at these locations. There is great loot if you're into that kind of thing, but it's pretty spread out just about everywhere. Just expect to be here a whole day and only be about level 5 or 6 for the day 1 boss fight if you choose to indulge in that level of looting. Before we move on to the possible bosses of this area, I feel like now is a good time to give a rundown on how and why to use the giant smithing tables. First, to use them, you simply have to light any of the 3 forges. You only have to light one, not all 3. Once lit, return to the smithing table. You will then be asked to pick a weapon in your inventory. Upon selecting the weapon of your choice, the smithing table will re-roll your weapon art or skill, or whatever you want to call it. You can then choose to keep the new weapon art or revert it to the way it was before you used the smithing table. It's very gimmicky, and can probably lead to some broken combinations you can't otherwise get. That would be another video and not a discussion for today though. If you end up creating any broken combinations, leave them down below. But anyway, on to the bosses of the single boss locations. For the Blacksmith Villages marked as a blood location, the enemy is a Chief Blood Fiend. He is considered the boss, although you'll likely end up killing the 4 normal Blood Fiends who fight alongside him. If we're just talking the Blood Fiend Chief, it has around 1,818 HP, and it grants 15,600 runes on death, giving it an okay, but not great, 8.58 XP per HP ratio. If we factor in the normal Blood Fiends, we end up closer to a 8.03, which is still okay, but not great. Moving on to Blacksmith Villages marked as a holy location. The boss here is a Divine Bird Warrior, who's probably the toughest of the 4 bosses at the single boss locations. This bird has about 1,577 HP and does grant 19,800 runes, which gives you a very high 12.56 ratio. That's a top 50 ratio for sure, maybe even top 40, and that's out of about 160 bosses. But that's nothing, because if we move on to the Blacksmith Villages marked as a lightning location, we'll find a single Death Knight as the boss. And that Death Knight has around 1,085 HP, but the rune bounty on its head is 18,000. That's a 16.59 ratio. Let me repeat that. That's a 16.59 ratio, which puts it in the same XP per HP ratio as many of the best bosses in the game. The big difference being that most of the best also give a lot more runes, but in return, they do take a lot longer to kill. And finally, we'll move on from the best to the Blacksmith Village that's marked with no elemental mark at all. The boss of this area is 3 Omen. But before we get to them, we need to discuss the ballista shooters scattered throughout this location. If you don't use one of the shortcuts we discussed, you'll likely want to take out all the ones I'm showing here before going to the boss fight. So, you'll either want to take them out, or use the shortcut if you're coming here just to take on the boss. Even if you're coming here only for the boss and you use the shortcut, you'll still want to take out the ballista shooter that's right behind the boss fight. There is a little trick you can do to get the ballista shooter to shoot the omens, but it's not really worth it, it's just a gimmick. It's better to take him out first and then proceed to the boss fight. But as far as the fight, the 3 omens each have 536 HP and grant 5,100 runes each, for a ratio of 9.52, which is good. Not as good as the last 2 bosses we discussed, but still very respectable. And now, we're going to move on to the multiple boss locations. These locations will be marked with fire, lightning, poison, or no element at all. When entering these structures from the front entrance, the first possible forge spawn will be directly to the left, but in this case, it's rubble. From there, you want to keep going straight until you get to the area where the giant blacksmith table is, which is in the back. Then, make the first right. This will take you to the second spawn location for the forge. Now, we'll backtrack to the final forge location that's on the ground level, and then make another right and take the final possible road. And here, down this road and in this building, is the third possible forge spawn location. Now, we're going to head to the left of the third spawn, and that's where we'll find the merchant. To the right of the merchant is a broken wall. If we scale that, we'll be on our way to a bow rack. And a little later, the fourth possible spawn location for the forge. And in this case, once again, it's rubble. The fifth one is not one I would ever recommend looking for. There's multiple ways to get to it, but all of them are worse than just finding one of the other locations. But just to show it, you will want to find the hole in the wall, and then find the broken wall nearby, scale it, and then begin running. There is a bow rack present here, loot it if you want. Right after that, you'll find a tower with the final possible forge spawn. Here's a disclaimer. So I'm just going to make this boss coverage as quick as possible for you and for me. For the Blacksmith Villages marked on the map with fire, these feature 3 Black Flame Monks. They have 873 HP each, and they grant 4,800 runes on death. That's a bad 5.50 ratio. Not much to say about them, but there's also a pretty cool ambush here, and that's probably the coolest thing about this place. We're going to move on to the lightning marked Blacksmith Village. Here, we have 2 total ancestral follower shamans, and 4 total ancestral followers. These make up the boss. You start the fight by hitting the shamans, which will cause the 2 normal followers to ambush you. That ambush is in finger quotes. The ancestral follower shamans have 661 HP each, and grant 6,240 runes on death. The normal ancestral followers have 426 HP and grant 3,240 runes on death. There's 2 shamans total and 4 normals. So let me punch that into my TI-80. Once I complete that, we get a 6.82 ratio, which is the best of the multi-boss structures, but still pretty bad. Note that the orbs here may seem intimidating, especially for players who played the base game, but they are dumbed down versions from what I can tell. They only attempt to shock you 3 times, then they die off. They also don't do a ton of damage, but they can still kill you, especially if you're getting hit by more than one. From there, we're going to move on to the Blacksmith Village marked with no element. This one is going to have 3 Grave Warden Duelists, each with 2,021 HP. But for all that HP, they only grant 6,000 runes. That's a Blacksmith Village worse 2.97 ratio. I think that's all I have to say. Now, we're going to visit the final bosses. These ones roam the streets of the location marked with poison elements. And I'm going to go over them, and I'm going to rant about them a little bit as well. The bosses here are the Omenkillers. There's 3 of them in total, each with about 1,449 HP, and they grant 6,600 runes on victory. That's a ratio of 4.56. But having a terrible ratio doesn't tell the whole story. They are often buffed and accompanied by multiple poisoners. They deal bleed damage, have sneaky high poise, and can kill you when you're on the ground because of a number of their combos. They also breathe fire. And there's many spots you fight them, while commoners up above rain down poison on you. Unless you're in desperate need of a poison weapon, I cannot think of any reason to put yourself through the nonsense that is this location. And that's it. That's the 8 locations. To preserve my voice, I'm going to discuss one more thing and then be done. Let's talk a little bit about XP to HP ratio. I feel like the large majority of viewers have been fine with the ratio. But every video since I've introduced it, I've had a handful of people question if it's an important stat. Often, they say that the weapon drop rewards, or the passives on those weapons, or something like that, are more important. And that's a fine stance. I view the ratio as something close to time to kill in a first-person shooter, or frame data in a fighting game. It can help sort some things out and improve your decision making, but it's not going to be the final word on if an enemy is really going to be worth killing or not. There's likely 10 to 20 factors that go into it. That's including your own personal strengths and weaknesses. Either way, I do let the ratio guide my decision making, but not control it. If you feel like it's a good stat, continue to use it with me. If you don't, hopefully you can conjure some kind of use out of the stat. Alright, well, I made it. And I'm off to make a hot tea with some honey in it, and hopefully not have to talk to anyone for a few days. This is Moundmaker. You take care.